Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Radha Govinda Dev ki jai, Srila Rupa Goswami Pad ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. We offer our respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very much enriched in understanding of Lord Chaitanya, and who are thus expert in narrating his transcendental qualities. They can purify all conditioned souls from the reactions of their sinful activities by pouring upon them transcendental songs about Govinda. As such, they are very expert in increasing the limits of the ocean of transcendental bliss, and they are the saviors of the living entities from the devouring mouths of impersonal liberation. So today we are going to hear about and from one of the Goswamis, Srila Rupa Goswami, who is considered the leader of all the 6 Goswamis. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the identity of Srila Rupa Goswami is presented as follows. Vrindavaniyam rasakeli vartam kalena luptam nija shakti mutkaha sancharya rupe vyatanot punatsa prabhur vidho pragivalokashishtem. We recall that before the creation of this cosmic manifestation, the Lord enlightened the heart of Lord Brahma with the details of the creation and manifested the Vedic knowledge. In exactly the same way, the Lord, being anxious to revive the Vrindavan pastimes of Lord Krishna, impregnated the heart of Srila Rupa Goswami with spiritual potency. By this potency, Srila Rupa Goswami could revive the activities of Krishna in Vrindavan. These activities had almost been lost to memory. In this way, Srila Rupa Goswami spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world. So this is the importance of Srila Rupa Goswami. In the beginning of creation, the Lord empowers one living entity to create the world. Unless there is empowerment by the Lord, no one can do anything, especially anything related to devotion, related to transcendence. So in the same way that the Lord empowered Lord Brahma to create, the Lord also empowered. In the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he empowered Srila Rupa Goswami to deliver the message of bhakti, to compile literatures, establish the devotional service of the Lord in the temples through deity worship. He empowered him to find all the places of pastimes of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan, and he empowered him to teach the science of devotional service. Srila Prabhupada taught us a beautiful prayer to Srila Rupa Goswami, which we chant almost every day. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayham Dadati Swapadantikam. Oh when will Srila Rupa Goswami, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet. So as devotees in ISKCON, we are actually seeking the mercy and shelter of the lotus feet of the leader of our Sampradaya, Srila Rupa Goswami. This is our aspiration. We pray and hope for that day that we shall get his mercy, so we may understand the teachings that Srila Prabhupada brought fully in their complete form. Srila Prabhupada presented nothing else but the teachings of Srila Rupa Goswami. And he presented them in such a way that we, very fallen entities of the age of Kali, can actually access the science of devotion. The speciality of Srila Rupa Goswami is that he was empowered to reveal rasa. He was taught Rasa Tattva, instructed in Rasa Tattva by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is what makes him the topmost Goswami. He shines by his own glory, and he teaches the highest truth, the science of re-establishing a loving relationship with the Lord, a relationship which is there, dormant in our heart, and which we have forgotten. So this is his speciality. And all the Goswamis followed him, although they were all very exalted, including his elder brother, Sanatan. They used to gather in Vrindavan, in Sevakunj, or sometimes in Radhakund. Sometimes they were found in Govardhan or in Varshana, and they sat together and discussed the pastimes of Lord Krishna. They spent their life relishing Krishna Katha. So, holding a straw within our mouth, we pray to again and again come to the lotus feet of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, led by Srila Rupa Goswami. Generally, in ISKCON, we know Rupa Goswami because he is the author of one of the main books that we study, presented by Srila Prabhupada as the Nectar of Devotion. And Srila Rupa Goswami compiled that book in the form of the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. So Rupa Goswami was a philosopher, he was a writer of tattva. He presented devotional service to the Lord as a science, very, very systematically. And he delineated pure devotional service apart from mixed devotional service. What is mixed devotional service? Coming to the Lord to serve him with something in the back of our mind, because we want something. We come to the temple to pray because someone is ill in the family, or because we want our children to perform well in their exams. We come because we want wealth. We come because we are in distress. We had an accident. We come to Krishna for so many various reasons. As soon as we sing his glories, give him offerings, as soon as we worship him, bow down before him, we begin our journey in Krishna consciousness, the journey of devotion. But there is a long way to go before we understand that there is no need to ask anything from Krishna, because he is the giver of everything. He is the maintainer of our life. He gives us the air that we breathe. He gives us the water that we drink. Srila Prabhupada sometimes said, he feeds the great elephants who need to eat 1 ton of food per day, and they never go hungry. Why should we worry? So Srila Rupa Goswami has come to teach us this, the science of purely worshipping Krishna without wanting anything in return. And if we do that, then within our heart will awaken transcendental emotions that will connect us with Krishna and give us our way back to Godhead, away from this material world, to never return. So he wrote books. Yes, he was a philosopher. He wrote the Nectar of Devotion. He wrote Ujjvala Nilamani, which is also a very technical book analyzing rasa in the context of Krishna's relationship with the gopis. He wrote the Upadeshamrita, which we study in ISKCON, also presenting in a very succinct way the path of bhakti. And he wrote another very technical book called Laghu Bhagavatamrita, an exposition on the various expansions of Krishna, who is known as Ananta Rupa. He is one, but at the same time expands into many, many forms of various categories. And Rupa Goswami explains all of that in that book. But besides this, Rupa Goswami was also a writer of dramas. He wrote the Vidagdha Madhava, depicting pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, and the Lalita Madhava, depicting pastimes of Krishna in Dwarka. He wrote the Uddhav Sandesh, the Hansaduta drama, and Dana Keli comedy. These are all write-ups about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And besides this systematic writing, he also wrote many, many verses. And he wrote a series of verses, sets of verses, which in Sanskrit are sometimes called ashtakas. Ashta means 8. Ashtakas means sets of 8 verses in praise of the Lord, in praise of Vrindavan, in praise of Srimati Radharani. Very beautiful poetry in the Sanskrit language. And this is usually very difficult to compose. So he wrote many, many of these verses. One characteristic of Srila Rupa Goswami is that although he was very erudite, very knowledgeable, and he was followed by all the Goswamis, and everyone in the land of Vrindavan where he resided bowed down to his feet, he never, ever forgot. He never forgot himself as the humble servant of Lord Chaitanya. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we read this prayer by Rupa Goswami himself. He says, Hridiyasya prernaya pravartitoham varakarupopi tasya hare padakamalam vande chaitanya devasya. Although he says, I am the lowest of men and have no knowledge. This is the consciousness of the very, very great devotees, considering themselves the lowest of mankind. Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatan actually were born in a very elevated Brahmin family, which hailed from South India. And they were very elevated in their gunas from birth. However, at some point in their life, in order to actually save the Hindu community from atrocities from Muslim leaders rulers of the time, he and his brother Sanatan, and they accepted to work as ministers for a Muslim leader. And therefore, even after returning, not exactly returning, they never gave up the practice of Vaishnavism, but after entering the full-time service of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they never considered themselves exalted. They always kept very low profile and would not even sit with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's main associates, even though they themselves were main associates of Lord Chaitanya. So he says, the inspiration to write transcendental literature about devotional service has been mercifully bestowed upon me by Lord Chaitanya. I am therefore offering my obeisances at his feet. He who has given me the chance to write these books. So, Srila Rupa Goswami, his poetical compilations actually encompass all his books. Even the Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, we will read some verse out of that book, is also written in a very poetical way. But in general, his poetical compositions, which are praises of the Lord, have been gathered in a work that is called Stava-mala. The gathering of the verses and ashtakas was done by Jiva Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami simply wrote. He wrote. They used to write on pieces of palm leaves and later on paper. And he just wrote. And how he wrote, he actually wrote constantly. While he was walking about in the forests of Vrindavan, here and there, verses, praises of Krishna would come to his mind very naturally. And as soon as he would sit down, he would immediately write down the verses. So he would compose, his mind would compose verses on and on and on and on. And from time to time he would sit and he would compose. He would write them down. And at other times, he would actually apply them himself to write specific verses, very difficult to compose, taking help of all his Sanskrit knowledge, grammatical knowledge, and knowledge of kavya, or the science of Sanskrit poetry. Sometimes it took him many days to compile just one verse. So, Stava-mala, we were hearing in the introduction, means a garland of prayers. A stava is a prayer. In the Vedic literature, you will find stotras and you will find stavas. And the stotras, in general, are prayers, praises of the Lord that you are found in the shastra, and that the devotees recite. They learn them by heart and they recite them. And the stava usually are praises of the Lord which are written by devotees themselves. They are not there in the main shastric books. They are just written by the devotees. It is said actually that when devotion takes birth in the heart, all the arts manifest. How many arts? 64 arts. Usually we go to school in these modern times to learn very complicated technical things that will allow us to become doctors and professors and technicians in big factories, or which will teach us how to run perfectly our business. But when we come to devotional service and chant Hare Krishna, what will actually, the knowledge that will actually sprout from the practice of devotional service is art. And because Krishna is served very artistically. How do the gopis serve Krishna? They serve him by dancing. They serve him by cooking. They serve him by painting beautiful designs on his face. They serve him by composing beautiful verses in his praise. So all the various art are the fruit of the growth of devotion in the heart. And generally, most of the great acharyas, after manifesting, after composing many philosophical works, gradually, as they perfect their life of devotion, they become poets. And this is what happened with Rupa Goswami. The verses that the great devotees compose are actually outpourings of devotion. They are expression of their devotion. I will read you what Srila Jiva Goswami has said about Rupa Goswami's poetry. This is what he says. Kavyam sudharuchiharam vibudha pibanto yasyanya kavyam atichiktavadutsrijanti rupa sananda sutarupa gunanurupa shastam prashastam asakrin mamanir mimita. Remember, Srila Jiva Goswami is the one who gathered all the writings of Srila Rupa Goswami and put them together. So he read them, studied them, chanted them very carefully, and he said that Srila Rupa Goswami, in his poetry, has very accurately described the form and qualities of Sri Krishna, the son of Nanda. The beauty of Rupa Goswami's poems defeats the taste of nectar. Thus, learned devotees who are accustomed to drink the nectar of Rupa Goswami's poems reject the poems of others, considering them very bitter. May the poetry of Rupa Goswami grant super excellent good fortune to us at every moment. So this is a very wonderful praise of Rupa Goswami's poetry, which is not meant to put down other people's poetry, but it is meant to give us the idea that what he has written is topmost in its composition. And the way it is topmost is that when we read it, it will awaken devotion in our heart. So in the Stava-mala, Srila Jiva Goswami has put together many verses. I will read a few of them to give you a taste of what he has written. The first verses that he composes, or at least the first verses that Jiva Goswami has taken in the beginning of Stava-mala, are praises of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, naturally, who was the life and soul of Sri Rupa. This is what Rupa Goswami has written. Upasita padambujastamanuragta rudradibhi prapandya purushottamam padamada pramudvrajita samastanata mandalis puradabhishta kalpadrumam shachisutamayi prabho kuru mukunda mande kripa shachisutamayi prabho kuru mukunda mande kripa. He says, O Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, your lotus feet are worshipped by the devoted Shiva and other demigods. You are splendidly manifested in the city of Lord Jagannath. For the surrendered devotees, you are a kalpavriksha tree. O son of Shachi, O Lord, O giver of liberation, please be merciful to me, a great fool. Another of the many ashtakas that he wrote that is very, very famous is very nice because it is an ashtakam that is to be sung around this time of the day. What is this time of the day? In Vrindavan, this is the time of the day when Krishna returns with his cowherd boys. He returns from the pasturing grounds. And although Krishna is known as being of the color of a rain cloud, Shyam, when he returns from the pasturing grounds, he is called Keshava. And Keshava has different meanings, but one of the meanings is white. Krishna is white. How is he white? He is white because he is covered by the fine powder of Raj Raj, the powder of the dust of Vrindavan. So, to celebrate the return of Krishna from the pasturing ground, Srila Rupa Goswami has written an Ashtaka, which is called Sri Keshava Ashtaka. I will sing two of the verses from this Ashtaka. Nava Priyaka Manjari Rachita Karnapura Shriyam Vinindra Taramalati Kalita Shekarelo Chalam Daro Chasita Yutika Gratita Valguve Kakshakam Vraje Vijayinam Bhaje Vipina Deshata Keshavam. I worship Lord Keshava. Coming back from the forest of Raj, he wears Priyaka flower earrings, a crown of fully blossomed malati flowers, and a Brahmana thread of small, charming jasmine flowers. Pishangi marikastani pranata shringi pingekshane mridanga mukhi dhumale shavali hamsi vamshi priye iti swasurabhikulam taralamavayantam muda vraje vijayinam vraje vipinadeshata keshavam. I worship Lord Keshava. Coming back from the forest of Braj, he happily calls his straying Surabhi cows. Pishangi Manikashtani Pranata Shringi Pingekshana Mridanga Mukhi Dhumala Shavali Hamsi Vamsi Priya. These are very beautiful descriptions. Ghana pranaya meduran madhuran narma goshti kala vilasa nilayan milad vivida vesha vidyotina sakhin akhila saraya patishuha sayantam gira vraje vijayanam bhaje vipina deshata keshavam. I worship Lord Keshava coming back from the forest on the pathways of Braj. With the best of words, he makes his splendidly dressed and affectionate friends, who are all expert at the art of pleasant joke, smile and laugh. So with the recitation of this poetry, we enter the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Krishna is returning from the forest. He's surrounded by his coward boyfriends. They are making jokes. He makes them smile. He wears a garland made of jasmine flowers and a thread, actually, a Brahmin thread which is made of jasmine flowers. He has flowers in his hair. He's covered by the dust of Braj. He climbs on a tree, and from the top of a tree, he calls his cows. And some of them actually wander away, seemingly lost, simply for the happiness of being called by Krishna. Another Ashtaka. This is a very famous one, very beautiful one. It is called Kunja Vihari Ashtakam. This is in Madhurya Ras. The Keshavastakam goes from Shakya Ras to Madhurya Ras. The Pratham Kunja Vihari Ashtaka is celebrating Krishna, still in the forest. He's performing his pastimes in the forest, but it is more in the Madhurya Ras. This is how the gopis see him. Indranilamani manjula varna pullanipa kusumanchita karna. Indranilamani manjula varna pullanipa kusumanchita karna. Krishna lavira krishora sihari sundara. Jayati kunja bihari, Jayati kunja bihari. Radhika vadana chanda chakora, salva balla vavadudriti chora. Radhika vadana chandra chakora, salva balla vavadudriti chora. Chachari chaturtanchita chari charuta. Jayati kunja bihari, Jayati kunja bihari. Indranila Mani Manjula Varna. This is actually describing the complexion of Krishna. Varna is Manjula. The complexion of Krishna, the color of his body is very charming. It is like the blue sapphire. And Pullanipa Kusumanchita Karna. Karna is the ear. In the forest, Krishna doesn't wear diamonds and tiger eyes. What does he wear? Pullanipa. Nipa is the big kadamba. There is a small kadamba that gives small flowers, and then there's a big kadamba tree. We see them mostly in Mayapur. Big kadamba tree that makes big, round, yellow, very fragrant flowers. And the cowherd boys, they tie these flowers. They hang on his ears. So this is the description here. And upon his chest, there is a beautiful little mala. A small mala. Sometimes he wears a little mala of small conch, small conches. And at other time, he wears the gunja mala. The gunja, you heard of that? Gunja. Gunja mala. Gunja is a seed. It grows, it's the seed of a creeper that grows in Vrindavan with very soft little leaves. And that creeper produces pods, like a bean pods. And inside there, there are gunja seeds. They look like something like mung dal. They are of the size of mung dal, but instead of being green, they are red, white, with a little spot of black. And they are very, very, very beloved of Srimati Radharani. In fact, it is said that they represent her. And the devotees worship the shilas, the Krishna shilas, by offering gunjamala. In Vrindavan, in the temple, we also make malas with all the gunja seeds and offer them to Krishna. He's very pleased. So this is what he wears in the forest. And then it says here, he is the chakora bird who drinks the moonlight of Radha's face. Radharani's face is like a moon. And you know the chakora bird? He is famous for being attracted to the moon. So Krishna is looking. He is walking in the forest with the cowherd boys, and suddenly around the bush appear the gopis carrying pots on their heads. And immediately Krishna's eyes go to the corner and he starts looking with the corner of his eyes. It is said that Krishna never looks straight at the gopis. He cannot. First of all, looking straight at someone is a little gross. If we want to look at someone in a nice way, we look from the side. Krishna couldn't look straight at the gopis because Balaram was always with him, because Yashoda, she told Balaram, boy, I'll let you go, but there's only one condition, is you never, ever, ever leave your small brother. He is expert at getting in all kinds of trouble. You never leave him. Therefore, Krishna, Radharani would come, the gopis would come, so he would turn the head as if he's not looking, and then his eyes would go that way. So Balaram and the cowboys would think, oh, he's looking at the cows, let's look at the cows. But actually, his eyes were in the other direction. So here, this is a description. Radhika Vadana. Vadana means the face. Chandra. Radhika Vadana, Chandra. The face of Radharani is just like a moon. And Krishna is a chakora bird who is always trying to reach the moon. Sarva Ballava Vadu Dhriti Chora. Vallabha, the Vallabha, they are the gopis. All the gopis, they are very chaste girls. They have vows to follow. But what happens to her, to them? There is a chore. That is Krishna. He is stealing their determination to stick to the service of their husbands. Oh, very bad. They say, very bad. You worship a very bad God. Very, very bad. What did Prabhupada answer? Prabhupada said, no. Actually, you bad. You bad. You bad. You stole Krishna's gopi. Originally, all living entities are with Krishna in the spiritual world, and they know him only as their Swami. But coming into this world and being totally illusioned, they start considering each other as master and servant. So here we see Krishna. He's stealing the composure of the gopis. The gopis are at home. They are churning butter very concentratedly. And suddenly what comes in their ears? Krishna is playing the 5th note on his flute. You know what happens when he plays the 5th note? No one hears it. The cowherd boys don't hear it. The children don't hear it. The cows don't hear it. But who hears it? The gopis. It comes into their ears, it enters their heart, and it explodes there. And suddenly they start trembling, they start sweating, their hands become loose, they forget what they were doing, and suddenly they get up like a person who has kind of lost their good sense. They open the door and they start walking towards the forest. And the babies are crying behind. Ma! They don't hear. And they keep walking, 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 walking. On the way, they lose their jewelry. Their hair loosen. They look like mad women. Sometimes Prabhupada describes, they put their cholis on the bottom and their petticoat on the top, in case they heard the flute while they were bathing. So they start dressing in a funny way. And then they run to the forest. Sarva Ballava Dhriti Chora. He steals the composure of the gopis because he awakens within their heart not lust, but this original, sweet love that each and every one of us is hankering for, that deep, dense sweetness that comes only from our relationship with him, and which is totally irresistible. Charchari chatur tanchita chari charuto. So this is a little poetical expertise here used by Srila Rupa Goswami. You can hear, what do you hear here? Charchari chatur tanchita chari charuto. Repeatedly you hear cha, 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 cha. Krishna is dancing. Cha, 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 cha. This is the sound of his ankle bell. This is the sound of the ankle bells of Krishna. Skillfully, Charuto is very, very skillfully. He dances very, very fast in a rhythm which is known as charchari. And at the same time, he claps his hands. He dances, he claps the hands, he moves so fast that in the rasa dance, each and every gopi thinks he's dancing with me. But actually, no. It's a circle, and Krishna moves so fast that it appears to each and every gopi that he is always with her. So when he dances in the charchari rhythm, playing, clapping his hand, smiling, kicking his feet on the ground, this is the sound that counts. Charchari chaturtan chittachari charuto jayati kunja bihari. So this is very beautiful. Another verse here. Ragamandala vibhushita vamshi vibramena madanotsava shamshi suyamana charita sukashari shrelibhir jayati kunja vihari jayati kunja vihari. All glories to Sri Krishna, who enjoys transcendental pastimes in the forest of Vrindavan. His pastimes are glorified by the male and female parrots. They are called Shuka, is the male parrot, and Shari, it is the female parrot. So we will read in another Ashtaka, Rupa Goswami described the male and female parrot. They are observing the pastimes. And after, they go somewhere and they repeat everything they heard, which sometimes is very embarrassing to Srimati Radharani. So here he says, his pastimes are glorified by the male and female parrot, and his flute is decorated. Usually, how do we decorate the flute? We put a flower garland. But here Rupa Goswami says, Raga Mandala Vibhushita Vamshi, that the Vamshi, the flute of Krishna, is decorated with ragas. A series of ragas are decorating the flute. So this is the first Kunja Bihari Ashtakam. Mind you, there is a second one. The second one is very, very sweet. I will read you only one of the verses, which is very, very beautiful. It goes like this. This describes Krishna wandering in the forest and suddenly coming upon a garden. He sees there is like a beautiful vine that has grown in such a way that it seems there is an entrance door into a garden. And as soon as he sees the garden, and then he starts hearing, oh, there is some music. There is some string instruments. There are some mridangas playing, some kartals. He's hearing, oh, the gopis are there, he thinks. Some gopis are there in the garden, and they are ready to receive Radha and Krishna. So Krishna, what he does is he looks at Radharani. Balaram is not there on that day, okay? Because what happens while Krishna herds the cows in Vrindavan, especially at a certain time during the day, the Madhyam Kal, in the middle of the day, from 12 to 3, he escapes from the cowherd boys. This is described in the 15th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. That at some point, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains, the boys are playing, it's the middle of the day, it's getting hot, they rest under the trees, they jump in the water, they do so many things. And at some point Krishna says, oh, it's so hot! You people, you just go ahead. I'm tired. I can't walk fast anymore. You go ahead, go. Just go ahead. I'll be there soon. And somehow, very playfully, the boys listen to him and they start proceeding with all the cows. And they go ahead and say, Balaram, you go. I'm just going to rest 5 minutes under a tree and I'll rejoin you. And as soon as they proceed further, Krishna immediately changes direction. Instead of going in the direction of the Yamuna, which is where he told the boys to go, you go to the Yamuna and you play there. You bathe in the water, it's so hot. I'll just rejoin you very soon. Instead, he turns and he goes to Mansi Ganga. Because he has an appointment. You know, every morning when Krishna comes out of the village, it is said he wears a flower on his ear. He wears that beautiful flower on his ear. And everybody thinks he loves that flower. But actually what's happening, he takes that flower and he puts it like this. And when he puts it like this, with the opening of the flower this way, it's called karnika. It's a karnika flower. He wears the karnika flower. Sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's yellow. So when he wears it like this, it actually means, hey girls, today we are meeting in Radhakund. And then sometimes he wears it on the other ear. And this means, hey, we're meeting in Mansi Ganga. And sometimes he wears it here, but opposite direction. Then that means, we're meeting in the groves of Govardhan. Yeah. And then sometimes he wears it in the other direction. So he has many ways. Sometimes it's pointing up, front, back. But it's a code. And the gopis understand. So during the day, there are many pastimes between 12 and 3 that Krishna is only with the gopis. He meets them in the groves of Vrindavan. They make garlands, they make flower beds, they make beautiful kunjas, they make julans. They play on the julan. They play sometimes in the Yamuna, sometimes in Manasi Ganga, sometimes in the caves of Govardhan, and sometimes they enter beautiful gardens. This is what Rupa Goswami is describing here. Anupamakara sakho patara dhangulyuko laghu laghu kusumanam paryatam vartikayam sarabhasamanugitas chitrakanthi bhirucher vrajanavayuvati bhir bhati kunje vihari. Krishna hears the sound of the music, the orchestra by the gopis. And he sees this beautiful entrance into a garden. So he turns towards Radha, and with his hands, his beautiful long fingers, he catches hold of Radha's fingers, which are here described as like newly grown leaves, pinkish in color. Krishna's hands are most elegant, and Radharani's hands are similarly most elegant. And Krishna catches Radharani's fingers, and he leads her to enter the beautiful garden. And there they walk slowly amongst the bushes and the flowers. And they come to the place where all the gopis are sitting and playing instruments. And both of them, sitting in the midst of the gopis, singing and laughing and playing instruments, shine. They shine with great splendor, Srila Rupa Goswami says. So this is an excerpt of this second Kunja Bihari Astakam. Some people may say, oh, why don't we just read Prabhupada's books? It is in Prabhupada's books. Srila Prabhupada was a great lover of Srila Rupa Goswami. How do we know that? He was favored by Srila Rupa Goswami. All his meditation before coming to New York was in the Radha Damodar temple. He lived in 2 small rooms in the temple. That deity of Damodar was actually carved by Srila Rupa Goswami, who besides being a poet and a philosopher, could also carve deities. He was expert in deity worship, in astrology, in mathematics. He spoke Sanskrit, Persian, Bengali. He knew several languages, and he carved deities. So in that very temple of Radha Damodar, Srila Prabhupada spent several years. And he would chant at the Samadhi of Srila Rupa Goswami, which is situated there. In the night, Srila Prabhupada would awake very, very early. He would take a jharu. You know what is jharu? A broom. Very traditional broom. It's a bundle of sticks and he would go in the courtyard where the Samadhi of Rupa Goswami is located, and he would sweep. He would sweep and cry and pray. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. He knew the order of his spiritual master. He was preparing to go to the West. Such a gigantic task he had to accomplish. Where would the strength come from? He knew the source of the strength, and that was Rupa. The master of all the masters in our sampradaya. He prayed to him. So, after getting his blessings, he left for New York. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the first canto, 11th chapter, verse number 26, Srila Prabhupada gives us an idea that he knew very well the poetries of Srila Rupa Goswami. This verse goes like this. Shriyo nivaso yastyora Panapatram mukham drisham Bahavo lokapalanam Sarangaram padam bhujam. So Shukadev Goswami says, the Lord's chest is the abode of the goddess of fortune. His moon-like face is the drinking vessel for eyes which hanker after all that is beautiful. He's describing the Lord here. He is the abode of the goddess of fortune. Any good fortune you are searching for, you will find it by worshipping the Lord. Any beauty you want to experience, the abode of all beauty is His face. His arms are the resting places of the administrative demigods. The strength of the Kshatriyas comes from Him. And, listen to the last, His lotus feet are the refuge of the pure devotees who never talk or sing of any subject except His Lordship. So Srila Prabhupada comments on this, and he says, the essence of everything is the Supreme Lord. He is called Saram. You know, Saram means the essence. He is called the Saram. And those who sing and talk about Him are called Sarangas, or the pure devotees. The pure devotees are always hankering after the lotus feet of the Lord. Then he says, the lotus has a kind of honey you know, in all the flowers, there is honey. And the bees are going from flower to collect the honey. But what is considered the king of all flowers? That is the lotus. And the kind of honey that is found in the lotus is very, very precious for the bees. So Srila Prabhupada says the lotus has a kind of honey which is transcendently relished by the devotees. They are like the bees who are always after the honey. Srila Rupa Goswami, the great devotee Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, has sung a song about this lotus honey, comparing himself to the bee. So, and Prabhupada is giving a whole translation in this purport of a composition by Rupa Goswami, which we usually call Deva Bhavantam Vande. I pray to you, O Lord. So Srila Rupa Goswami translates it like this: Oh my Lord, I beg to offer my prayers unto you. My mind is like the bee, and it is after some honey. Kindly, therefore, give my bee mind a place at your lotus feet, which are the resources of all transcendental honey. This is the translation of these words of Rupa Goswami. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Manmanasa Madhukara Marpaya Nija Pada Pankajamakarande. Manmanasa Madhukara Marpaya Nija Pada Pankajamakarande. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. My mind is praying to the mind, please be like a bee. Usually our mind is like what? A fly. Our mind is like the fly, and it likes to go wherever it stinks. All mundane topics our mind is attracted to. So Rupa Goswami is praying that my mind, please become like a bee and be attracted to the narrations about the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. So I will sing this beautiful poetry. Yadyapi samadhishu vidirapi pashyati natavanakagra mariche. Yadyapi samadhishu vidirapi pashyati natavanakagra mariche. Idamichami nishamya tavachuta tadapi kripad bhutaviche. Yadyapi samadhishu vidirapi pashyati natavanakagra mariche. Idamichami nishamya tavachuta tadapi kripad bhutaviche. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Manmanasa Madhukara Marpaya Nija Pada Pankajamakarande. Manmanasa Madhukara Marpaya Nija Pada Pankajamakarande. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Bhakti Rudam Chati Yadyapi Madhavanatayi Mamatila Matre. Parameshvara Tadapi Tavadika Durgata Gatana Vidhatri. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Manmanasa Madhukara Marpaya Nija Pada Pankajamakarande. So this is a very beautiful poetry in which he actually explains that even though Lord Brahma himself, deep in trance, cannot achieve his goal, which is to get a glimpse of your effulgent toenails, which only are soothing to the soul. Because, O Lord, I have heard of your compassion. Still, I have a hope that one day I shall see it. So this is the prayer of Rupa Goswami, which has been very nicely taken by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada says, I know that even big demigods like Brahma do not see the rays of the nails of your lotus feet, even though they are engaged in deep meditation for years together. Still, O infallible one, my ambition is such, for you are very merciful to your surrendered devotees. O Madhava, I know also that I have no genuine devotion for the service of your lotus feet, but because your Lordship is inconceivably powerful, you can do what is impossible to be done. Your lotus feet can deride even the nectar of the heavenly kingdom, and therefore I am very much attracted to them. O Supreme Eternal, please, therefore, let my mind be fixed at your lotus feet, so that eternally I may able to relish the taste of your transcendental service. Srila Prabhupada concludes his purport by saying, the devotees are satisfied with being placed at the lotus feet of the Lord and have no ambition to see his all-beautiful face or aspire for the protection of the strong arms of the Lord. They are humble by nature, and the Lord is always leaning towards such humble devotees. So these are Srila Prabhupada's words here. What time is it? Oh, it is 5. That means we have to finish. This is very sad because we have entered the transcendental zone where time does not exist anymore. So, if you are interested, I will sing just a couple of isolated verses. The first one is actually part of the nectar of devotion. The nectar of devotion is an ocean. And the compositions of Rupa Goswami are very, very beautiful. There is a chapter in the nectar of devotion which, if I believe, is chapter 13 or 14. It's 13, chapter 13, in which Srila Prabhupada and Srila Rupa Goswami comes to the end of the description of the 64 angas of devotional service, amongst which are 5 most potent ones. Why these 5 are most potent? We know what they are. The chanting of the holy name is most potent. Why? Because it can awaken transcendental feelings within the heart of even a neophyte who is not actually advanced or purified in Krishna consciousness. And then there is the association of the pure devotees, which can also give bhava, transcendental emotion, like this. In a second, the pure devotee opens his heart, and from his heart, the rays of the moon, a cooling mood of Krishna Bhakti, enter the heart of the audience. And there is also the process of deity worship. By touching and serving the lotus feet of the deity in the temple, one can achieve love of God very quickly. By relishing the meanings of Srimad Bhagavatam, one can achieve bhava, love for Krishna. And by residing in the holy Dham of Vrindavan, one can receive transcendental emotions within his heart. So these 5 angas are very important. And Srila Rupa Goswami is teaching them. It's trying to attract us to these angas in a very cunning way. Especially about the one I will talk about, residence in Vrindavan. we should reside in Vrindavan. This is the essence of the teachings of the Upadeshamrita. Upadeshasaram. What is the Upadeshasaram? One should worship Krishna in the mood of one of his followers while residing in Sri Vrindavan Dham, either physically or within one's mind. Now, I'm sure all of you have been wanting to go to Vrindavan. Guess what Rupa Goswami says about it? He says, don't go. He's actually prohibiting. He's giving a good advice. Don't go to Vrindavan, he says. Don't go there. I tell you, my friend, don't go to Vrindavan. We are going to hear the Sanskrit first. Smeram bhangi. You heard of smeram? Smeram means smile. And bhangi, you heard of some bhangi? No, it's not the toilet cleaner. Bhangi. You heard bhangi? Krishna is called Tribhangi. Yes. We're talking of that one. Smeram bhangi traya parichitam sachivistirla drishtim vamsinyasta dharakishalayam ujjalam chandrakela govindakhyam haritanumita keshitirthopakante ma prekshishtas tavayadi sakhe bandhu sange stiranga bandhu sange stiranga. Oh, my friend, says Rupa Goswami, don't go to Vrindavan. Especially in the month of Kartik. Don't go. And if by chance, you have to go during Kartik, don't go on the full moon day. In the beginning of the month and in the end of the month, there's a full moon. Don't go on the full moon day. And if by chance, very unfortunate you happen to be in Vrindavan during Kartik, on full moon day, stay in your room. Don't go to Keshighat. Where not to go? Keshighat. On the banks of the Yamuna, don't go there. Because there, he stands in his threefold bending form. He is there. He stands on the bank of Yamuna at Keshighat, and he's casting sidelong glances. He places his flute to his lips, which look like newly blossomed twigs. His transcendental body is bending in 3 places and appears very bright in the moonlight. Don't go there. Just don't go there. And if you go, don't look at him. Otherwise, I warned you. You will lose all your attachments. You will lose all your attachments to all your friends, all your family members, your birthplace, and everything about yourself. So he says, Yadi Sakhe Bandhu Sange Astirangaha. If you are attached to remaining with your family, if you are attached to continuing your business, if you are attached to living in your hometown, don't go to Vrindavan. So now what you would like to do? You want to go to Vrindavan, yes. Okay. Api sparamodhe pratipada sudha koti madhure purana gramantar vahati tavalila rasajhare manovatsa patum vishaya vishagarte vishatime kripayaschaturna damayatamamuntarna kapate. In this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami says, oh, I am so unfortunate. The sweet, very sweet nectar stream of your transcendental pastimes flows through the Puranas. But unfortunately, I am not attracted to hearing the Puranas. My mind is like a foolish calf. Krishna is herding the calves. When he was small, he was Vatsapal. He used to herd the calves, and he would take them to the Yamuna to drink. So all the smart calves, they would just follow Krishna to the Yamuna. But one foolish calf, he would just wander alone in the fields. He would just wander and wander and wander alone, getting away from the herd. And then he would become so thirsty. And he would be looking for water. Where is water? Where is water? And as he would walk like this, desperately thirsty, suddenly he would come in the middle of the grass. He would see, oh, some water down at the bottom of a well. And he would try stretching his neck to drink the water. And as he would do so, he would fall into the well. And then very helplessly lament. Ooh, ooh. So Rupa Goswami says, my mind is just like a foolish calf. Instead of being attracted to Krishna's flute and going along with Krishna, reading Srimad Bhagavatam and the transcendental pastimes of the Lord and relishing that nectar, that soothing nectar, which is like an unlimited ocean of sweet water. My mind has fallen into the ditch of mundane topics. And trying to relish those topics has fallen into the well of material existence. See the expression of the poet? Kamadhinam katina katidha palitas durnideshas tesham jata mayina karuna natrapano pashanti utsrijetana tayadupate sampratam labda buddhis tvamayata charanamabhayam mam niyung shvapnadasye. This verse is found in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says, oh my Lord, there is no limit to the unwanted orders of lusty desires. Desires always arise in the mind. And he says, these desires, since so many lifetimes, I have tried to serve them. Every time a desire appeared within my heart, with my folded hand, I said, "Oh yes, I shall try to satisfy you." I tried, I served these lusty desires, I rendered them so much service. But you know, normally when you serve someone, that person should become pacified and satisfied. But they have not shown me any mercy. The more I served them, the more they demanded from me, the more they wanted. They did not show any mercy to me. And from my side, I am such a rascal. I have not even been ashamed to serve them. I should have been ashamed to serve lusty desires, but I was not ashamed. I did not even have a desire to give them up. I thought, lust is life. Oh my Lord, O head of the Yadu dynasty, recently, however, my intelligence has been awakened in the company of your devotees, and now I wish to give them up. Due to transcendental intelligence, I now refuse to obey the unwanted orders of these desires, and I come to your to surrender myself at your fearless lotus feet. Oh my Lord, please kindly engage me in your personal service and save me. Okay, I will choose the last one. Should we read the last one? Kada Vrindaranye Mihir duhitu Sangamahite Muhur Brahmam Charitalaharim Gokulapate Lapanuchair Nayana Payasam Venibhiraham Karishye Sotkanto Nividamupachekam Vitapinam. Oh when in Vrindavan forest, which is glorified by the Yamuna's touch, will I continually wander, filled with the longings of love, loudly chanting the transcendental pastimes of Gokul's king, Krishna, and thickly sprinkling the trees with streams of tears from my eyes. Oh when shall I wander in Vrindavan? Srila Rupa Goswami ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande.